Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here live coming at you with the Shower Door Pros. Hope you're having a great week. I know I am. The weather here is beautiful. Springtime has finally arrived.
It was raining the other night.
Oh yeah, yeah, woke up uh the other day, I think it was the day before yesterday, and it was
Yeah. I went to bed. It was raining.
yeah. It's pretty
Okay.
strange this time of year. We've
Yeah.
had like a lot of precipitation
Yeah.
kind of late in the year here for this area, but it's good, man. It's better than getting it all in one weekend, and flooding out or whatever. But anyway, that's the weather. Yeah, hey, thanks for joining us. I just wanted to kind of put a note out there that if you have a topic that you would like to hear us discuss that we haven't gotten around to yet, be sure to let me know. You can just make a note, just send me an instant message, whatever, Facebook, or you could just even put it in the chat if you're on the call or whatever. Let me know your topic suggestions and we'll make sure to get it on the roster for a future call. And if there's a particular individual you would like to have come on and be host or something, let me know about that. It's like we'll see if we can get them interested in coming on. Yeah, we aims to please. I don't know if we do please, but we aim to.
Oh, the slogan of our of my that first awesome company I worked with, Ames Glass, we aims to please. I thought it was the corniest thing ever, but it works. It works.
I like it. We aims to please. Nice. Cool. Well, hey, the topic tonight is personal development and motivation. Something we kind of talk about kind of regularly, but it's officially the topic tonight. Um, Overcoming obstacles, building confidence, achieving personal and professional goals, and how that might like overlap, um, in your business, in your personal life. It's time there's some overlap there. And got about 10 people on the call tonight. Um, so maybe there's some people with some ideas. Anybody want to start off? Give us some feedback or some of your personal experience with this topic. Don't make me call on you. So I was thinking about the possibility of just like on every call, having a book recommendation. It's just like I know I've read like a slew of books on, self-improvement. I got on this thing, I don't know, it was probably 8 years ago or something now. Time goes by fast. To get to a certain age, time goes by fast. And I started thinking, I wonder what it is, I was just curious, uh, how different people define success, for one thing, and then what steps people were taking to, achieve it. So I thought, maybe I should read some books on this. So let's just start listening to other people talk who are into this kind of self-improvement thing and what book titles they were talking about. So there's like Think and Grow Rich, right? Napoleon Hill, right? It's a classic. So I got that, read that. And so whenever you start reading one of these books, they'll almost always talk about other authors that they've read. And you kind of get this daisy chain of books. And so you end up reading all these books. So I read, how to win friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie, right, is the author of that. It's classic, great book. Lots of lots of great information in there about you know, how to just get people to like you, how to be successful in your conversations or in sales calls, stuff like that. How to, listen to people and hear what their needs are, what their concerns are. Um, and yeah, so there's probably 20 of these books that I've read or something. And so maybe I'll just start doing that and just each week. There's a couple right there, I could list off a dozen more, but um, you know, what I found out after reading a bunch of these books was like, I mean, I'm not interested in what all these guys are selling. It's like it's obvious that you really can use like these principles to gain wealth and stuff like that. Um, I really believe it works, what I realized was that I just wasn't as interested in becoming rich and famous as like a lot of people are. So, so it really wasn't that, a lot of it really wasn't that useful to me. But some of the books that I read really were, uh, had a lot of other information besides just, financial wealth, that I was interested in, which is like things like relationships, and how to be successful in relationships and how to just achieve whatever goals, my personal goals would be. Um, not just, paying the bills, but you know, whatever my goal is in a particular season of my life. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is a great book like that you can use to achieve financial success, but you can also use a lot of those principles just for um, having success in relationships, or figuring out what it is that you do want to do. So read books, I mean, that's a great way to develop yourself. There are a lot people have a lot of ideas, and if there's a person that you admire, chances are, if they're famous, they've written a book or someone's written a book about them, and you can learn, what they did to achieve success. Here we go. Daniel, talk to me.
Um, I can't really say anything about this book. I just got it. It just shipped to me the other day.
The cover is awesome. I
It
like the
was a
title.
pre, yeah, it was a pre-release that I decided to order. I was watching a service on Sunday from Jensen Franklin, and he had this guy Mark Pentecost on talking about his business and stuff and life and what he went through and whatnot. And I mean, it inspired me enough to, hey, let me read his book, I guess, So I just got this book. What is it? Life of Your Dreams. It's a mindset thing and all those typical things, but has to do with him. So Mark Pentecost, I honestly don't even remember what business he did and what he was in. I can't remember that if he even spoke about that when he was, talking with Jensen. I remember he went through cancer, battled cancer and stuff like that, and or was diagnosed. He had a bunch of stuff. It was very interesting, and it's I don't know, puts your life into perspective sometimes when you hear other people's stories. But this is my one of my next ones. So.
Nice.
It's
Excellent.
it's one of those books.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
We'll
That's
see.
cool.
There's your book of the day for me.
There's a book. There's a book of the day.
I love
Life of
audiobooks
Your
more.
Dreams, what's it called?
It's called Life of Your Dreams by Mark Pentecost.
Life of Your Dreams.
Hmm.
That's cool. I kind of I kind of went down a rabbit hole with all this kind of stuff a couple of years ago, but I find it so hard to implement things because you get so busy and then you want to do these things and you read all this stuff and it sounds like pretty easy to implement. And then you got 4,000 things going on, and it's like I don't know. I don't know what the definition of success is. You
Hmm.
know, I guess if you're working if you're working every week, then that's success, I guess, right?
That's a great
Yeah.
question.
But
I mean, that's really key. It's funny because I've had people ask me, hey, to be their coach. There's like, hey, somehow they saw something in me that made them feel like I could coach them or something. So the first thing I do when I sit down to coach somebody is I ask them to define what success is. And it's hilarious because most people will never come back to another coaching session after that. And it's like, because here's the thing, it's like I'm happy to share my experience, whatever wisdom I might have, and encourage people. You know, I want to see people succeed and I want to see people, achieve their goals. But the truth is that like we define success differently. And the cool thing about success, by definition, it is achieving like your goal. So it's like I can't tell you whether or not you're successful. Only you can tell whether you're successful. And that's the beautiful thing about success. I mean, I definitely don't define it the way like the average person does for sure. And I find there are very few people that I ever meet that have a similar definition of success that as I do. But the first thing you have to decide is what that is. And you made a good point, Steve, about like reading these books. Like you can read these books and there's like tons of ideas, suggestions. It's like more things than you could ever implement. And I mean, if you read a great book and you have one thing that you take away and that you can start to practice, that is a huge win. But I mean, as much as that's true, I think just getting a different mindset, changing your paradigm of like how you see things kind of happens in the course of reading books and just hearing ideas that you haven't heard before. But I don't one thing that I've heard or read over the course of all these many things, couldn't tell you exactly where it was. It's probably been repeated more than once, is just this idea of figuring out what it is that you want. And kind of a cool thought experiment is to imagine that, you found a genie, whatever, a magic lamp or whatever, a genie popped out and said, hey, I'll give you one thing, whatever you want. What is it? Would you be able to tell the genie what that thing was that you wanted? And it's amazing how few people can. And it's weird because we run through life and we're like working this really hard and trying to achieve something and like we really don't even know what it is that we're trying to achieve. I mean, we know what like the TV says, you know, we should do or we should want or whatever. It's like, yeah, I guess that's what I should do. I guess that's what I should want. But really deep down, is it? Is it what the TV says? Or is it something else? And unless you can really define what that is, um, it's going to
I think
be,
it changes, just like goals change,
yeah,
success changes. I mean,
sure.
I could say I'm successful if I want to buy a truck and pay it off. I'm successful. Well, then you're not successful anymore because now your goals have changed and like, oh, I'm not successful anymore. I have this truck or whatever this thing is, this thing, but then now you want more. So I think success is kind of it's just it moves. you know,
Yeah. Right. I mean,
not just monetary, but I mean, maybe it's monetary, maybe you make all the money in the world, and you're like, well, this is not success. This is just a bunch of work.
Mhm.
So, you don't feel successful. You feel like you've got everything in the world, but you're not successful because I guess mentally you don't feel successful, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, one definition of success that I've heard is being engaged in achieving the next goal. So that's a pretty good definition of success. Because you're right. I mean, once you do get the thing that you're after, if that is how you're defining success right now, then what? Then it's like, because you're still here, right? You're still on the planet.
Yeah, it's not
So,
doesn't stop.
right.
I would say something successful too with like these books and things that we read. You like you were saying, Chris, if you take one thing away from it, is great, but there's a I haven't even read the book, but I've heard it so many times from Dave Ramsey when I listened to him. I have read some of his books, but he loves to talk about a guy named Henry Cloud that wrote a book called Necessary Endings. Well, I've heard him reiterate this concept so many times that it's stuck in my head. And we had a scenario the other week where we had an employee that, me and my dad were talking about if we needed to let him go or whatnot, just conversing about it, and and so I was telling my dad, I was like, whenever we've lost, I've heard when you've lost hope in somebody, that's when it's time for it to be over with. That's a necessary ending is when you've lost hope in them. Like if you don't have hope in what they can do for you anymore, it's necessary. It's a necessary ending, So that's one thing. I think if you can implement something like that you've heard or read later down the road, eventually at some point it's stuck in your brain, and then all of a sudden, hey, you pull this random thing out of your back pocket and use it as reassurance to make a decision. That book or that podcast you listen to all the time was successful, and it was worth it, if it helps you make a decision or if it helps you stay on track or something, like I would consider that successful, as far as taking away things from books and whatnot, so.
One of the comments I'll say to the losing hope, I used to look at it that way, but I actually heard Gary V. I was listening to him one day, and he said the way to look at employees is always in the eye of, would you hire them again? So don't get to the part where you're like lose hope on someone, because it's like that was you drag it on forever. Like
that's far gone.
If you look, exactly. If you look at him today and you're like, would you hire him again? If the answer is no, then you just get rid of him. And I was like, wow, that is, I like that. I like the approach of that.
Yeah, that's a good point because whenever someone calls me to ask me for a reference, for someone I've worked with before, the only thing that I'll tell them is whether I would or would not hire them again. Because really anything else is just whatever, it's just fluff or conjecture, whatever, or there's a temptation to kind of go down a road, and talking about somebody who's not there. And I really don't like to do that. So it's just like, hey, what about this person? This person worked for you, what can you tell me about him? I'd hire him again, you know? There you go. Or I wouldn't hire him again. You know? I mean, I think that really says it all.
That also protects you from the HR stuff because I didn't know until after I
Hmm.
gave some honest feedback on people that called for referrals that the HR person that was hired from the medical industry told me, Rob, you can't be saying that. I was like, what, the truth? Like they came in late, they operated this way, they handle tools like this. They're like, no, they can sue you for defamation of character if your comments results in them not getting a job and an income. Now they can come back and say that you are actively participating in their revenue loss, and now they're going to sue you for lost wages too. Like they can make whatever claims they want, but you don't give them any ammo when you say very general statements like that
Mhm.
that aren't about their character, about anything like that. Just simply like keep it in that hiring zone. Like totally, I like that advice. And for my one quick book, I would recommend Quick Brain. After I read Quick Brain by Jim Quick, I realized like, oh, I should have read this before a lot of my other books, because his core concept and his work is all in how to make your brain retain information more, and tips and techniques all throughout the book, every chapter and throughout the chapter, on what steps you can do, breathing techniques, other people that he's worked with, famous and non-famous, wealthy and not wealthy, and what he's been able to help them do when it comes to the reduction of Alzheimer's or just their brain activity in general going up based on their doctor's notes, let alone these people being able to memorize scripts and lines, because he works with a tons of actors as well when he got more and more famous. But after I read that, like what Daniel says, that's a perfect thing. Every time I think of the brain, I think of Quick Brain. And one of those many notes and chapters I read come back to me at random times. In this case, it came to me now when I thought of, if you're reading a book and you really want to consume it, Jim Quick's advice is get the audiobook and read it at the same time. Your brain learns from sensory input, and the more inputs you can give it, on top of using your finger to read, one of the things teachers say that you shouldn't do the most to kids is actually something that helps the reticular focus on where your finger is, which retains that word instead of all these other inputs. So you use your finger, your audio, and your visual of reading it, and your every sensory is possibly giving you the chance to retain it. So it's making a deeper wave in your brain. And like little tips like that help you read every book going forward, help you understand how you might be able to apply different things going forward in a way your brain might be able to catch it and recall it and pull it back and take thinks on how to remember people's names and all these other things he skittles in there. I have tons of other books, but your little one book comment makes me think of all those other ones too. I never really think of what they said, but I think of the title of the book, which leads me to think of that whole concept, like Extreme Ownership from Jocko Willink, which is all about, it's not about mindset and attitude, but hell yeah, it is. Because everything you do, how you function, how you show up every day affects the team around you. When our leader would show up at our location in Austin, downtrodden and beat up by life, the energy flowed through the room, because when he came in hot and ready and going and proactive and hype, the people left the shop that way. When he wasn't in a good mood, the other guys like absorbed this lack of like, woo-ha, let's get this day, teamwork. Like I was gone whenever he wasn't there. And it was crazy to see how one person and one mood can really affect it. And if you're a leader, that's usually where they're going to pull their cues of how they need to attack the day and how accountable they need to be and what kind of behavior you do, not what you're telling them you're going to do, but how you actually act and what energy you bring, like, is everything. So I love that book reference and personal motivation reference. Those are, Jim Quick is where I would start for helping your brain tackle all these things even better.
Awesome. I've never even heard of that. I love that. Thanks for the tip. Quick Brain, KWIK.
What you were saying there too about that guy coming in and transferring his energy has a lot to do with motivation too. Like just your typical motivation in the morning and whatnot, that's a big deal, just the morning, how you come in the mornings and to motivate people or to not motivate them, and has a big effect, and then as a leader, trying not to have your stuff affect that, like you got to go in and you don't get to have moments. You don't, not necessarily, you don't get to have moments. Nothing is about you. It's all about making sure that you're in the right mindset, or at least pretending like you're in the right mindset to motivate them properly. It's just not an option.
I'll elaborate on that. I agree 100%. That's the tough part about entrepreneurship, right? We never have a chance to be in a bad mood because it really affects everyone. And our last week we had our team meeting Tuesday morning, and I was getting on everyone just to say good morning in the morning, because I felt like it starts making a big difference. I started doing it and people are doing it now habitually, but I want to get a consensus from the group. Interestingly enough, how do the majority of you feel like your Glazers are? What are their attitudes in the morning? I feel like I struggle with a lot of Glazers who come in who, they're just off in the morning. Does anyone? And I feel like it's consistent with a lot of my guys. So, what's the consensus in the group?
I think it's based on their lifestyle.
Based on their lifestyle, based on how they woke up and their living situations, and they got a lot going on, and they got a lot going on too, to them, at least to them, they got a lot going on, and it's the kind of thing we do every morning is just feel it out. You feel out the air, see what's going on and see where you're needed. Somebody might need you more than another person. Like, I guess just the other night, we had a guy that was having a diabetic, almost going into like a diabetic coma, and like I didn't pick up on that until I overheard conversation. So then it's like, things stop for a moment and you make sure you address what's going on and show some concern and just to, I don't know, you feel it out every morning. And the more you can show concern for their stuff that they have going on, the more they're, they'll, I don't know, yeah, they want to know that you care. And then all of a sudden you change, it can kind of help alleviate whatever they have going on, without getting too far into the weeds of what they have going on, because it's not really the place for that per se. You're just trying to get them in gear and going. But sometimes it requires you to change their day, with a small conversation, pull them aside, or just to notice them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I feel like my older Glazers are the ones who come in, always they're just kind of crotchety. And my younger Glazers are the ones who are, good morning, how are you? Great, all that stuff. So I just find it interesting. It's changed my hiring dynamic because I really don't want to bring older Glazers in. I feel like they're all just jaded.
Mm-hmm. It's like that here too. You're not the only one. I can definitely reassure you.
Good. I mean, that's what I was wondering.
I was taught by the old timers, so I'm used to it. I'm used to grouchiness and stuff.
It's a requirement where
if you're a glazer and you can't stand it, like, look, if you're a glazer and you can't stand the grouchiness, you're in the wrong business, dude. Seriously. It is what it is. That's how it was from the beginning, and that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. It isn't what it is. It's not how it should be. My homes are too expensive to go in and have have my Glazers in a bad mood in front of a customer. And that's just not going to be it. And if they're a bad mood in front of us when they go in, they're not all happy smiles.
Oh yeah, that's different. That's different. But around us, I got some old timers and they're kind of grouchy. I just like, I grunt with them too. All right. You learn how to go with it. But yeah, with customers, that's a no. They know better on that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the old
point too. I mean, it's like it depends on what you're doing. If you're like, I cut my teeth doing commercial work, right? So it was I was on high rises and stuff with these grouchy old crotchety old crusty glazers, and like that's how it was. Yeah, they were they were like that. But it doesn't matter, man, if you're out on a high rise, you're on the because just the other construction workers, But like Saul's talking about, if you're going into people's houses, then attitude is like a huge thing,
So we got one guy that comes in every day, just absolutely the world's ending, he's a great installer. So what, my production manager and I have done is we almost give him some softballs, a couple days a week, something easy to start him out. He's got about a half-hour drive. We got some everybody's got bad traffic, but so he's always comes in a little high stressed, in the morning. We'll give him an easy job to start off the day, and then kind of work it a little harder the rest of the day. And then by the end of the day, he comes in and he smiles, and it's like, is that the same guy that left here this morning? And things like that. And it happens almost every day. He comes in, the world's going to end, and by the end of the day, he's happy. He's talking to everybody. I think sometimes you got to play like part psychologist and even how you're dealing with them in the mornings. Each guy's different. Which guy do you got to kind of just ask an easy question to, find out what they're into on the weekends, how their wife's doing, how the kids are doing, things like that. But I've really found like, some of them like to start off with the hard stuff and then work their way easy. Some of the guys, but you can almost and I don't want to say trick them, but get into a groove of how they like to work anyway.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by GlassGadget.com. Showcase Innovations creates tools that help shower door installers be more efficient and save time. Check out GlassGadget.com for more information.
That's interesting. I like that. That's cool.
Not trick them. You find out who they are. Like every character in a video game has stats, and some like heavy energy spurts for 3 hours at a time and worthless afterwards. That's your bigger player. But when you know the attitudes of them, that you can actually adjust them. And Gary Vee talks about that very well. The whole when business owners complain about their employees wanting to work hard, he usually flips it on them. It's like, well, give them how much you make. Like, you don't expect your employees to work as if they own the business, because they're already coming in with all the life issues that you have, on top of making less or feeling like directionless or feeling like unsupported. But if you can see what the hell success is to them, right? Have those conversations. For one guy, it's getting all his daughters to school and showing up to every one of their events. He'll bust his ass for you. But if he could find a job that works around his daughters being happy and his wife not yelling at him, and causing him drama, which he does if he isn't in the right schedule. If you find out another guy's just pissed because he's in that hour drive of traffic every day, but in Austin, Texas, if you leave 30 minutes earlier, it's a 20-minute drive. You wait 30 minutes, it's an hour drive.
Right.
When you actually listen to the feedback and adjust your business, adjust the schedule, adjust your policy around, we actually give a crap about some of your issues that we can actually control. And here's what we're going to do to adjust to show you have stability here. You have someone that cares about you here. You have someone that wants you to succeed. So I want you to see here with us long term. And you're going to get someone who's more likely to be with you on those bad days and down days, instead of saying, why am I busting my ass killing myself for someone who doesn't care? Instead, it's like, man, this stuff sucks, but at least I work for someone who cares. Like, just flip that, and you might be able to save those guys from going too downhill, cussing in front of your customers, that kind of stuff. It happens on bad days. When their phone's blown up and they got a 2-hour drive home because you routed them wrong. Like, knowing the feedback of how they feel can help you water the storm and pivot before these things happen.
Yeah, there are some days when you go in and, I know, some of the guys are, some of the guys are more morning guys, right? And then when you expect them to kind of carry the morning for you, to be, the happy-go-lucky guys, to kind of get everybody, rah-rah, that kind of stuff. When those guys are down, you're like, oh man, now it's really going to hit the fan today. When you're relying on certain guys. So, you having those guys and then really trying to pump those guys up too. So it's like I said, it's like part psychologist every day. That's why I like to try to go back every morning and see kind of what the feel of everybody is, because like you said, Rob, if somebody had something happen the night before or over the weekend, you want to be on the forefront saying, okay, hey, this is how we're going to handle it. This might be an issue later this week, how we're going to schedule around it. So just, if you're not around them, then you don't know, and then it just gets worse.
What is I'll recommend a book here in a second, because I read a really good book regarding guys and teams and so on. But what is everyone's start time?
We start at 8 in the morning.
You have, that's when your guys show up at 8?
Yeah. I mean, that's when they clock in now. Like Robert was saying, I got 2 guys that'll show up 6:45, 7 o'clock. And they get there before I get there, and they'll load up and they'll be ready to go at 8 o'clock. But usually we're 8, because we do a lot of retail work as well. So I have them clock in at 8 and they go to 4:30. But I mean, I'd like to start everybody earlier, but getting them there at 8 sometimes is even harder.
Okay. What's the consensus on you other guys?
We're 8 o'clock. We tell them they can show up at 7:30 if they want. But I mean, you need to be there by 8 or you're late. And then from there we work till the job's done. They do clock in and clock out. Our guys are hourly. But I mean, my boss, he gets there at about 7:15. So we tell them you can get there anywhere between 7 and 8 if you really, 7:30, 7 o'clock, you can get there, but ain't nobody gonna be there, Keys outside if you want to go in. But it's 7:30 to 8, and they're all fine with it, like because half the times we're feeling it out in the morning sometimes, and we'll make a change on the fly. Like if all of a sudden we feel like Kevin, you're saying your lead guy or your guy that's usually getting people going, or the cheerleader of the group or whatever you want to call them, like if all of a sudden they're having a bad day, well, shoot, we switch things up, or we pull ourselves a little bit and spend some extra time with them and stuff. So we're real flexible when it comes to the morning schedule and who's going where and stuff like that. We can change it as quick as we need to. We even schedule some jobs that are kind of flexible in case, so we have like new construction stuff that's can be flexed easily, so.
Well,
But
we
8
start
o'clock.
we start at 7 or whatever that's worth. I was just curious where everyone else started.
Now, do you do a
Yeah,
lot
we
of
had a-
like retail work too? So you're showing up at people's houses at like 7:30? Are they, quarter
Well,
to
I
8?
mean, we don't load the night before. We prep the night before, but we load in the morning. So they get it there
Yeah.
at 7. They load in the morning, and by the time they get out and they hit morning traffic and get to their first stop, I mean, they're not there till probably 8:30.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's kind of way. I mean, we don't load either. I would like to. I like to do what like Bill does. The Dogmans where they have everything on a cart ready to go. I just don't have as much.
He's got a
room in our
lot of
shop.
employees. He's got a lot of employees though, and they prep it before.
Yeah. So
my installers are the guy who prep and load, right?
Yeah,
He doesn't do
that's what we do too.
Yeah.
I mean, we have it marked, and we try to unbury everything, and have it, and we have everything labeled and ready to go. So they're just kind of picking that stuff. So, but yeah, our guys probably don't get to the job sites till 8:45 in the morning, maybe 9. It just kind of depends. Or if they're close by, it might be 8:30.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys done at
really,
like? Do you guys finish at like 3:30 then? Like 3?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We're done right around 3:30. And I found it works well because sometimes if there's stuff to do in the shop afterwards, it's not as big of a deal versus them getting back at 4 or 5, even 6 sometimes. And also they get back at 3 and they get to go home. They got a bunch of daytime to do stuff. So my guys have liked 7. I started with 8, but I've definitely moved it back.
Nice.
I've got 2 crews that 2 of the 4, maybe 5 crews that they kind of want to work. They just get their work done and they go home early. Like I got one crew that, I mean, I'm telling you, they work so hard, but they're done. I mean, by like 3 o'clock, they're always back. They're like, okay, we're just going. Now, my one guy, he actually goes and works the second job, like UPS. And he's like, yeah, I just want to go home and have a couple hours to chill out and stuff. So, I mean, they get their work done. What we kind of predetermine, like, hey, each crew needs to get so much work done per day. If people want to knock it out and get it done and go home early, it's fine with me.
Yeah, same idea.
No. It's funny how often that happens. I mean, like when you're hiring, you're always kind of concerned, oh man, am I going to have enough work for guys to do, to keep them busy full time. But it's amazing how often they're happy to work part time, and get on to something else, and it's really so counterintuitive.
It's very counterintuitive. My guys want hours, but then if they're done at noon, they're like, "Oh, no problem, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
It's like, You were just complaining that you want more hours. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of times they don't mind. I mean, if they have to work 9 hours, they don't mind, you
Right.
know. But if they can work 4 or 5 and get and go, they don't mind that either. So, which is ideal, really if if the workload is kind of fluctuating, it's great to have guys like that. And then
For
getting
sure.
back to attitude, like I've never had like big crews or had a lot of trucks running or anything like that ever, it's never been like my goal to do that. But I've always hired based on attitude more than skill, really, even because it's so important, working with customers, working with homeowners, working with contractors and high end jobs and stuff like that. Having guys with good attitudes is like so important, critical. So maybe even to a fault, I've done that. And if like, if a guy's not doesn't have a good attitude, it's like I don't want to work with him. But you have to have that and some skills, so um, but it's hard to teach somebody attitude.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to teach somebody skills, You can teach them to do something better, but teaching someone to have a better attitude is just about impossible.
Well, and that's why I prefaced everything I said. I at my last meeting last week. I'm forcing everyone to say good morning in the morning, and believe it or not, it's like made a difference. People habitually are coming in now and be like, "Good morning," and it's
Believe it.
kind of changing the attitude. Yeah,
Believe it.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got a sign over my door. I've had it for like there for years. It says, "Remember, say thank you." And it's like, I don't know. I mean, you don't even see it. You see it like if you come to work and then, your first day you see it, and probably the second day you see it, you notice it, you know what I mean? But then after that, you don't even notice it anymore. It's just like, it's like a subliminal message, man.
Yep.
It's going into your brain. It's over the door. Every time you go through the door, it says, remember to say thank you. It's a little thing, thank you, but it makes a huge difference. And like kind of getting back to like reading books, read all these books, right? And it's like, I don't know, I might not have put like 10% of it into actual practice, but it has definitely changed the way that I think about things. Absolutely. Things come up and one of those, like a sentence comes from, something I read or something I heard. You talk about Gary Vee, it's like, um, may not be reading a book that but he's putting out this content all the time, constantly. And there are a lot of guys like that who are just as good as an author. I was at a networking meeting and one of the people there, a lady who owns an electrical contractor. We were chatting. She says, "Have you heard of Jefferson Fisher?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Oh man, you need to follow this guy on Instagram, Jefferson Fisher." I was like, "Okay, I'll check it out." So, found search for the guy, check him out. This dude's awesome. This dude's awesome, man. He's a lawyer, and he'd like would just do this little like 1 or 2 minute video in his car, and just like giving tips about how to communicate. And the guy's amazing, man. I mean, he's got like just tons of wisdom about how to like handle difficult conversations. That's his specialty. And he just wrote a book. So you can get the book if you want to, but you can also just follow the guy on Instagram and get like these little 30-second, 2 minute whatever little talks on like, hey, advice about how to handle, somebody who's rude or somebody who cuts you off or somebody who's always trying to one up you, or how to approach somebody that you want to have a conversation with. It's like, you don't want to, and how to start that, or just little phrases that you can use, man. Dude's a genius, and there's a lot of people like that out there that can just, you know, uh, you know, give you some little gems to use in your daily life, And I think there's a cumulative effect of just having the desire to be better and to do better and putting some effort into that. That's going to have a payout in your life. I mean, it's just got to, right? So even if you know, read, 100 books and it's like, and I'm not able to put all that stuff into practice, I think that there's been a change in my attitude about learning and about being teachable and about realizing that, like, yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I think the answers are out there, you know. Um, and I've definitely it's made a difference in my ability to close deals or to negotiate things and also to piss people off. Dude, man, I am so good at pissing people off because now it's like, man, I can set boundaries. I'll lay down boundaries, man, and I've lost friends over it. But that's cool because I like the friends I've got. I've got good friends. And that's a thing too. It's like there's like diplomacy and then there's like cut and bait, man, like we were kind of talking about earlier of like just, yeah, it's time to end this relationship. It's important.
I would imagine that's why we're all here too, when you were saying about being motivated and desire to do better and just grow and do stuff, I'm sure each one of us is here because there's some sort of hope that we're going to learn something or just get better from being here. Why the hell are we here every Wednesday? We don't have to be. Like there's some sort of hope in the background of all this that we're going to take something away and be better. Like there's plenty of other things I could be washing dishes right now instead of my wife washing dishes. Like there's something else we could be doing, but we're here motivated for a reason, for something. So, hope, maybe.
Yeah. There you go, man.
Sometimes it's just to know another guys in the trenches. Like sometimes when you're out there, some people show up and nothing's going right. Just to show up somewhere where someone else is like, "Yeah, man, me too. Here's what's going on." And just like when labor shortage or ads going bad, like there's seasonal things that happen, but because I get to hear the ear of people from east to west coast, I can easily say, you know what? I've heard this 5 times this week. You're not alone, which sucks, but it's also like your world isn't ending. Like your world isn't ending. Your world isn't ending. You need to breathe. We're all going through this, and when you know other people are in the trenches with you, it's like, all right, sucks. We're in this together. But at least you're not. It makes you, I guess, feel like less like it's your fault or like you're doing something wrong or like you're not doing enough, which is a lot of places we put ourselves, even when we're doing so much. If you don't document it and have someone that's next to you saying, stop, breathe, look at what you've accomplished, stop looking at all the unchecked boxes and look at what you checked. Take a second to appreciate those. You forget them so easy. Like there's sometimes progress is just waking up and showing up. And that's enough today. Because tomorrow you got a plan, you got a bigger goal, you got a vision, and you got a team and a network of people that'll help you if you just call on them. So it's like knowing that's there is like I think helps a lot of people. There's everyone talking about the Top Golf thing where they got to see each other. It was so cool to hear everyone's feedback about how much it felt like they were meeting their friends and family. And some of them expressed how they really didn't have that close network of friends and family since they changed a lot about their life. And it didn't hit them until they kind of saw each other in person and realized, oh crap, this meeting to shoot the crap and talk, this weekly stuff we do is like there's deeper meaning behind it. You see someone, you feel instant connection like they're your buddy forever and you actually never met in real life. Like, that's actually a really cool feeling to have that feedback to get. That's what I've seen like over and over again from the community of people. Everyone's visiting each other, going to each other's places and locations and learning from each other. So you wouldn't have that without showing up every day to even build that trust. Who the hell wants to go up their competition? But no one in this group really sees each other as that, even though you have every right to. You don't. You're literally trying to help each other get more successful, even though it's like the antithesis of what people say you should want for your greed. But It's actually what you actually want, because that's what success is. Who wants to be at the top of the mountain when no one else is up there with you? You're like, this is great, isn't it? It's like no one's there. You shit on them all the way up. It's like the
I
beautiful.
use this group to keep an eye on competition, like I mean, it's all here.
Keep
We're
your
all
enemies
here.
closer.
Keep people close to you. Keep your competition close, like that's and learn from the hell if they're competition, good. Learn from them, and there's always somebody better. There's always somebody worse. Yeah, I use this group to keep people close. I want to see what they're doing. I want to be nosy. I'm trying to find out what they're doing that I'm not doing, and you know,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and it's funny how like over the years, it's this group is like changed, it's ebbed and flowed, it's like there are people who used to be here all the time who like I haven't seen in a long time, you know. And then there's people who will come back around and then they'll be back in, be back in the mix, and it's just like, hey, things happen in life and they're, maybe their grandkid has reached just a certain age and now they're just not available on Wednesday nights anymore or whatever, And then their grandkids are going to get to be like a certain age and then they'll be back, And the cool thing about being here, like, I have to be here every time, because it's like I open and close, but so I get to see like that over like a period of years. Um, People come and go, but a consistent group of people showing up like every Wednesday night. I mean, it's been a long time since I started a call on a Wednesday night and it was just me and nobody else showed up. In fact, I can't remember.
what was that like? Like, I couldn't imagine that.
That was a trip.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it only happened like once or twice, like really at the very beginning. But yeah, I mean, here's a small call, we've got like 10 people, you know. That's awesome, man. And like it's funny, I tell this to people all the time. People will say, "Oh, I want to do this thing. It's like it's a passion of mine. It's like it's a labor of love, I'm going to do this thing and I don't care if only a couple people get something out of it. I'm willing to do it. And then they do it and a couple of people do show up and they're like, oh man, this ain't worth it. You know, they were like full of it, man. They were lying to themselves. They didn't, that like, oh yeah, I don't care even if it's just a couple of people, you know. It's one thing to say that, and then it's another thing to like to live that out. And if you do really care about something, you'll just show up for it. And even if it is only a handful of people, it's like I don't know. I never expected the group to grow to be like thousands of people, but I don't. I wonder really what percentage of those are actually like involved, like checking the group or participating or posting stuff. It's probably like a tenth of a percent or something like that. You know,
I use it. I know
I
who's
know.
working with I use it like which builders are working with this glass company and that glass company. I'm just watching, so I know you learn so much just by watching, like, okay, that builder that I've been after is working with this particular person. You know a little bit more about that person and that builder, and they're, like, it's a tool. Use it. So
Yeah.
Now, Sam
That's
said something about his shifts. I don't know if we caught that earlier. Said he
goes
staggers in
what,
on
6?
commercial comes in at 6 and 6:30, and then the installers come in 7, 7:30, 7:45, 8, so they can all load. I remember we had a meeting and we shifted everything from 8 to 5 to 7 to 3:30. All the guys kind of voted on it. The company actually wanted that. That worked for a while because that made everyone's days better. But this stagger thing is pretty cool. I like that. I want to make sure everyone heard Sam's attempt at this.
yeah. You
Best
gotta.
thing as a business owner, you do what works for you.
Yeah.
choose commercial work or don't choose commercial work if you don't want to be in early.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you're not stuck in a box anymore. You don't have to do things the way everybody else does them. You can
Yeah.
you can try different things, you can be creative, and who knows, man, you might come up with an idea that's like brilliant, that like takes you like to the top. You won't know unless you try. Can't be afraid to
6:30,
fail, right?
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock doesn't work for me. I gotta get my kid. You gotta get lunches packed and kids off to school and stuff.
That's right. I won't be there at 6 o'clock.
Nope.
Right on, you guys. Anything else before we go? I'm gonna post like a poll to the group for like just suggestions for meeting topics. Um, so if you guys got any ideas, for something you want to talk about,
Insurance.
insurance. We talked about insurance.
I'm just kidding. No. No.
Okay, all right, good. Um, but yeah, anyway, other than that, have a great week, you guys. See you next
See you
Wednesday.
later.
Thank you. Thanks,
See ya.
Chris.
guys.
Good night,
See
everybody.
you guys.
Much appreciated.